it's Christopher Nolan. We were all so incredibly excited to be a part of it. I think when you combine an event like Dunkirk with a director like Christopher Nolan, it's such a match made in heaven for me. It was a very sobering experience for me because it's such an integral part of British history. So it was a very important story to tell, I think, for everyone on board with the film. It was really important to do it in Dunkirk for me. It was incredibly, I think it was just really good. I think it added an edge to the film that it might not have had if we'd filmed it somewhere else.
Alex is a soldier. He's kind of a little edgier than Finn's character Tommy. He's prepared to be a little more selfish to kind of save himself. I think the amazing thing about the film is you're not bogged down in the backstories of these characters. There's not so much kind of where they're from and what they're all about. I think it makes it so much more powerful because as an audience member, you're watching and projecting your own fears kind of onto these characters. They're kind of blank slates in terms of, while you're watching it and what their stories are. And I think it makes it incredibly emotional to watch. I think for us, there was a feeling of, we were making something special and we wanted to make something special and tell this incredible story. And, we could feel the history under our feet, I think, when we were there. So it definitely made it more special being there. I think genuinely I would encourage people to watch it in IMAX. I've seen it both ways, and IMAX is it's this incredibly visceral experience. It really surrounds you as a film. You don't at any point feel like you're watching a screen. And I don't remember the last movie I watched that kind of made me feel like that. So yeah, I think IMAX looks good. I'm a massive fan of Chris's, to be honest. If you like movies, him making a movie, which obviously doesn't happen all the time, that straight away draws you in. I'm a massive fan of his, and I think him telling this story has all the ingredients of being something great, and I feel very lucky to get to be a part of this one.
We've tried to make it as immersive an experience as possible. We really tried to tell the story from the point of view of the people who were there and give the audience some sense of what it might have been like to be there. Well, Dunkirk is a story that British people grow up with. I think it's one of the greatest stories in human history, frankly. And it hadn't been told in modern film, and that's a gap that you're looking for as a filmmaker. You're looking for something that should have been addressed that hasn't been. About 20 years ago, long before this project was born, we helped a friend sail his boat across the channel to Dunkirk, and I don't think we thought it would be that big a deal. It was very difficult, and it felt dangerous, and that was without people dropping bombs on us. We were not heading into a war zone, and so your admiration and respect for the people who made that crossing, the civilians who helped out, your admiration is magnified greatly by doing the crossing yourself.
Right from the beginning, we knew that we were going to have to try and make it as real as possible in terms of all the boats and the planes and the costumes and so on and so on. But that was kind of, it was a fun challenge, and the further we get from the real events, the fewer of those things there are. So it felt like a great time to be making this film while it was still possible to use Spitfires. It's one thing to read about how young these guys were on the beach, but when you actually are, sitting there with Finn and all of these boys, it really brings it home how young these soldiers were. And I think that's a really important thing in the movie. There's not we don't give a huge amount of backstory for them, but you get it just from watching their faces, their performances, and just really understanding that they're children.
Yeah, it was very testing, and Chris made it easier because he had us doing everything. We did all the stunts, and we never knew when we were going to be blown up or drowned or, covered in sand. So it was a really exciting process to be involved with,
I played the sort of leading army officer that we meet in Dunkirk, who is as baffled as to what's going on as everybody else is. It was a week of immense confusion where nobody really seemed to know what was happening. the majority of the film is told through the sort of the young private's eyes, and they really don't know what's going on. But it turns out most of the officers didn't know what was happening either. So that's the perspective that I'm offering. Most of the men on the mole were standing there expecting that they were probably going to get bombed at some point, hoping desperately that a destroyer would come and save them. The officers, so in this case, Kenneth Branagh and I both knew that that wasn't going to happen because they'd already tried it once and the Nazis had already sunk one of them and nearly taken the whole pier down with it. So the hope was that suddenly all these small civilian boats were going to come over from Britain and rescue the men, which seemed like such a long shot. And then it happened.
I play Collins, RAF pilot Collins, and I'm with Tom up in the air. We're providing protection over the beach. I'm a massive fan of his films, so you know, if I wasn't going to be in it, I'd go see it anyway. And the subject matter is pretty unique as well. And I think the two of them meeting together is sensational. Yeah. It was on the eve of the Battle of Britain, you know, and they were fighting for their home and everything they believed in. So they didn't really have a choice, to be honest. No. It was great. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you get to be put in those situations as truthfully as you can, and he was very adamant that was happening at all times. And you know, we were in real Spitfires, we had real battleships. It was just berserk, man. It was insane.
George, he's a character who's very naive to all of this. You know, he doesn't know a lot about what's going on, and I kind of stayed that way. I grew up in Ireland, so we didn't learn about Dunkirk, so I stayed naive to it as well. Every part of the script he stuck to. You know, he's a genius at writing, he's a genius at shots, and you know, and all of everything, man. It's just a genius. It's going to drag you in. It's going to really bring you into that story. And it's going to do it without IMAX as well. IMAX is a bonus. But it's going to drag you into it, man.
Operation Dynamo was the rescue attempt by the British government and army to rescue 400,000 members of the British Expeditionary Force on the beach at Dunkirk, where they had been trapped by the advancing German forces. The Mole is this great sort of jetty that the Navy were in control of, which was the biggest place and potentially most efficient place to get the most numbers of soldiers off, but in fact it was under attack. Tidal waters didn't help, and in the end many boats were sunk on or near the Mole, which made it almost impossible to use it. So it was constantly under pressure, and Commander Bolton, who's based on a number of real characters, was there trying to exhibit grace under pressure and simply stick it out across the days and nights of this bombardment.
I play Mr. Dawson in the film, and he's a man who takes his motorboat across the English Channel to rescue men who can't get home, stranded on the beaches on the north of France. Dunkirk could be summed up by a spirit of togetherness, of doing things together, that the group was capable of more than the individual. Now we tend to worship the individual more, and individuals are fantastic, but they rarely do great things without inspiring a group.
And straight ahead. To the right, both of you. And Barry. Straight center, please. I would be one more here. Why do you drive on the wrong side of the road? You're done, good. You're done. It happened. One more here. Keep moving on. Hey, right here, Kenneth. Hey, Kenneth, over here, please.